Good evening, and welcome to our Flash in Time cultural celebration. My name is Malika Bussey, and I'm the Family and Community Engagement Coordinator for the South Euclid-Lyndhurst School District. This evening, you will enjoy an evening with a panel discussion, followed by a Black History Paint and Punch. I am so excited that you have joined us this evening for this celebration. And I have some special guests that are here with us today that will serve on our panel. I will now take this time to introduce them. First, we have Dr. Arki, who is an educator, activist, and organizer. She is founder of the Ellipsis Institute for Women of Color in the Academy. Also joining us this evening is Mr. Morris Irvin Jr., who is a youth development specialist and founder of Mansa Consulting. Ms. Chanel McLeod, owner of Professional Inspiration, a for-profit business, is dedicated to providing teacher wellness and professional development workshops and programming. Ms. Teresa Leek, a licensed professional counselor in the state of Ohio, also has mental health professional experience of 10 years plus. And lastly, joining us is Ms. Angela Flowers, who holds a BA in psychology from John Carroll University and a Master's of Science in Social Administration from Case Western Reserve University. She is co-owner of Making a Difference Consulting and Children Family Therapeutic Solutions. Welcome to our panelists. So to start us off today, we're going to do a little Black History trivia. Any of our panelists can answer as we go through these questions. Are we ready? All right. Feel free to unmute your mics. Mm-hmm. Ms. Flowers, you still look mute. I want you to be able to answer.
I'm ready. All right,
here we go. First question. Are we ready? Oh, they're anxious. Here we go. They're on the edge of their seat. He was known for his social and political views and published The Souls of Black Folks in 1903. He was also the co-founder of the NCAACP. Who is he?
W.E.B. Du Bois.
Woo! That is correct, Dr. Arki.
Well, what I like about him, too, is we share the same birthday, which is February 23rd.
That is awesome. All right. Next question. Business and education. The recent Netflix movie explored her small business in life. One of the first African-American millionaires whose sales of innovative beauty products sold throughout the United States and Caribbean islands. She was born Sarah Bree Love on December 23rd, 1867 on a cotton plantation and was the fifth child of Owen and Minerva and the first one born free. Who is she?
Madam C.J. Walker.
All right, Miss McLeod. Entertainment category. It was the longest continuously running syndicated television program in 2016. The host was Don Cornelius. It helped to launch the careers of the Jackson Five with other guests like the Temptations, the Isleys, Al Green, and Gladys Knight. What was the name of the show?
Soul Train.
Oh, Train.
Everybody remember the Soul Train line?
Yes.
All right. Political and government. He was the 44th president of the United States and the first African-American elected in this office. He previously served as senator in Illinois. Who is he?
President Barack Obama.
President Barack Obama. Entertainment category. What performer was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress in 1972 for her role in the movie Lady Sings the Blues? She is an actress, entertainer, recently celebrated her 75th birthday, and was in a famous singing group. One of the members, Mary Wilson, recently passed away in January of this year. Who is she?
Diana Ross.
Oh, yes, ladies, Diana Ross. All right, let's see. Okay, love this one. In November 1960, she became the first African-American student to integrate an elementary school in the South. Who was she?
Ruby Bridges.
Ruby Bridges. Woo!
Woo, woo.
All right. Everybody probably knows this one. Just shout it out. Who is this? Who is this lady? Who is she?
Kamala.
Vice President
Kamala.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, first African American and Indian American and Asian descent elected as the Vice President of the United States. Let's represent.
Yes.
Yes.
And last but surely not least, history category. He is known as the father of Black history due to documenting the oral histories research and other legal records to tell the stories of Blacks. He was the founder of the Journal of Negro History and Negro History Week, now known as Black History Month. Who is he?
Carter G. Woodson.
Okay,
Yes.
Dr. Arky. Great job. Woo! Thank you so much for participating in our little Black history trivia this evening. At this time, I am going to turn it over to Miss McLeod, who is going to share a poem with us.
Good evening and welcome. The poem that I'm going to recite to you is called The Real Black History. The heart that beats in my chest as I speak pumps the blood of a people who have devoured defeat. From a wealthy mother who gives birth to diamonds, salt, and gold, my people reared civilization. History's secret shall be told. Architects, scientists, and mathematicians of Kemet. This is the Black history that some would like us to forget. Existing before we were kidnapped, chained, and enslaved, my people developed essential systems that are still utilized today. Descendants of kings, queens, scholars, warriors, and griots. This is the Black history before we were ever classified as Negroes. We have been lied to and about, falsely portrayed as savage. Meanwhile, we built nations with our bare hands after surviving the Middle Passage. So if only the strong survive, may you proclaim who we really are. Children of a powerful people. Our mere existence is proof by far. Through Willie Lynch, Jim Crow, and racism institutionalized, it is the gumption of our faith that has wiped our weeping eyes. Our history is broad, vast, and deep as every single sea, like our sunrise to midnight shades, are the dimensions of people like me. Our history, Black history, American history, world history It is the root of humanity's tree, grounding it as it bends and sways. It is unbound by bleach blonde books, and it is surely unlimited by a month full of days. Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome, Ms. McLeod.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing. Very powerful.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So now we are going to transition into some questions for our panelists. Our first question, and how we're going to do this, is that anyone on our panelists can answer. We'll take a few, and there are some that I will ask each of you to answer. But our first question this evening is, do you think Black History Month is necessary? And if so, why?
Well, I'll start since my mic is already unmuted. And I will say that, yes, we would love for Black history to be a part of our American history curriculum, our world history curriculum. Naturally, it should be. However, we know that just like other opportunities that we have, such as minority business enterprise and things of that nature that have to be made so that there will be some sort of mandated, as much as possible, fairness. I believe that Black History Month is just a window of opportunity. That doesn't mean that this is the only opportunity or should be the only time that we celebrate our heritage, our history. And when I say our history as African Americans, our history as descendants of Africans, our history as Americans. But yes, I believe it's still necessary.
Thank you, Ms. McLeod.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead too and answer that. I agree. I think that Black History Month is definitely still necessary until Black history is integrated on a daily basis into curriculum. Then it's still necessary for us to have a month where it's celebrated. And not only should it be celebrated daily, it should be celebrated throughout the entire year, because it is world history, American history. There have been so many contributions, whether it's in the science and medical field, the educational field. There are so many things that people of African descent have contributed globally to how our world operates, that it definitely is necessary to, when you tell history, you have to make sure you are telling accurate history. And so by leaving out things, the contributions that our ancestors and just in general currently that Blacks have made, then we're not telling history accurately. And so even if it just means that this month is where it is nationally and globally celebrated, it still needs to happen.
Thank you. Any other panelists would like to share?
No, I think they did a really good job answering. Pretty much, I agree with both.
Thank you. Okay, so our next question. We know that youth have always been influential in civil rights movements. Outside of Ruby Bridges from the trivia questions, can you think of prominent youth, college age or under, that have been at the forefront of various movements?
So I'll take that one. And this is a story that's really close to home for all of us. So in my role at Kent State University in the Center for Pan-African Culture, this is something that I feel charged to bring to the table to amplify. 52 years ago in 1968, it was students, undergraduate students, a part of a group called Black United Students, one of the very first Black student organizations at an undergraduate university in the country. They got together and they made demands of the university, of the institution, to say that we want to see ourselves reflected on the university, like physically, but then also in the curriculum. So in 1968, they were able to establish the Kuumba House, which is now the Center for Pan-African Culture. And in 1970, they were able to establish the Department of Pan-African Studies, which is now going to be the Department of Africana Studies in the fall of 2021. So when we think about young people and we think about who's at the forefront of these movements, we can continue to name movements from the past up until today, where young people are at the forefront of that movement. The people who we know and love, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, right? Movie out right now. He was 21 years old when he was murdered. So we are definitely being led by young people to transform our institutions in our country.
I want to also add that Amanda Gorman, who was Youth Poet Laureate for the inauguration, that we have to broaden our idea about what activism is. For the youth, for ourselves as adults, educators, that activism doesn't mean that you have to start a march or that you have to do certain things, that there's a certain look or a certain duty that an activist does. You may be a singer and you might write a powerful song. I believe that India Ari, you know, she's been writing very powerful music since she was a very young woman. Amanda Gorman, the poem that she wrote, that was an activist poem that had some action that needed to happen. And she gave us that action at her closing, that we need to be the light. So I want to encourage everyone that you can be an activist through the talents and skills that you have, that you don't have to participate in a march and feel like that's what activism is. Activism is more broad.
I love it. I love it. And historically, just thinking about some of the movements, especially during the civil rights movement, we had the Little Rock Nine. We had the 1963 Children's Crusade, where thousands of children decided to be a part of the movement. We had the late Senator, Congressman John Lewis, where he started some of those movements and things like that. So I think even looking at Claudette Colvin, who sometimes is left out of the history books as being 16 years old and being the first person to actually start that, to the bus sit-in, and then Rosa Parks came 7 months later. And so I think that it's important for our young people to know that your age doesn't define the type of movement that you can make. There is power in one, and one person can make a difference with anything that's happening. So for our young people that are tuning in and that are watching, you can make a difference in what happens around you. And just knowing that just because you are young, you still are and still can make an impact.
That is so true. Everything that everyone has said in regards to the different type of movements that have happened, both past and present. I think it's important for our young folks to know that they do have a voice, and how they go about that voice might look different, but they do have a voice, and it's important to make sure that they're sharing their voice. All right. I did fail to mention, and I want to just make sure I do that, Dr. Arki also is a proud parent of South Euclid-Lyndhurst School District. So I did not mention that in her intro, but very excited that she is on our panel list, not only in her role in education, but also as a parent in South Euclid-Lyndhurst schools. Next question, I would like everybody to please answer. Looking at the current work that you do, who has been a historical influence in your journey, and why did you choose that person?
I can start. I have a couple, but they're in the same kind of realm or light. Stephanie Tubbs Jones, just so prominent, influential. She was the first Black Congresswoman in Ohio. When she was elected in 1998, she went to my high school, my alma mater, which was Collinwood High School. So she was someone to me that was just a trailblazer anyway. But then Congressman Louis Stokes. So he was one of my professors in graduate school, but just the work that he did and how prominent he was in the social work field and community was a reason that I gravitated towards social work and community work and counseling. So those two were prominent figures, as well as Fannie Mae Lewis. She did a lot of programming in the community. I was a part of a lot of her social programs. And the last one is Jane Etna Hunter. She was and organized the largest ran social service agency in Cleveland. So there's buildings that are named after her. But in the social work field, she is one of the dominant forces. She moved here from North Carolina, but she set up shop here in Cleveland and just is phenomenal. And so in my field, giving back is important and making a difference within people's lives are important, and community work. And so those are the people that have influenced my journey so far.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers.
I can go next. The people that I want to just kind of put a light on are the people that are not in the history books. They are my teachers. From when I'm talking about first grade, I struggle. I could not spell. I really struggle. And Miss Harris, Miss Connie Harris, I don't know if anybody knows her, but I think about her all the time. And she was the first person that helped me to start believing that in myself. Miss Katie Wilson, my second grade teacher, Miss Bullock, my third grade teacher. These were all African-American teachers in East Cleveland who showed me about having pride in my heritage, who gave me a strong root of believing in being who I was meant to be. So many teachers, through elementary school, high school, Mr. Johnson at Warrensville Heights High School, he gave us a curriculum that he taught us about the Neanderthal man, but he also made us have a pass that we had to pretend that we were going through apartheid, and we had to have our pass card, and he gave us that experience of what it would be like to have to always show this ID to get through the hallway. And he made the teachers were involved. So to all my teachers that were who believed in me and believed in us and showed us through example. You're not in history books, but you are historic in my heart. And the teachers that are out there that are listening, know that you make a difference. Know that you are going to reside in the hearts of these students and make an impact and make a historical impact in their lives.
Yeah, that is so true. When I kind of think about my journey too, teachers definitely come to mind. Miss Lawson, Miss Tribble, just to name a few from Cleveland Heights where I grew up, definitely had an impact in my journey. I think Dr. Arki, you were going to share?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I want to, I want to add to the teacher list, Miss DeWanna Wilson. Miss Wilson was my second grade teacher, and she was this beautiful Black woman. And it was like, oh, she's so beautiful, and she's so Black. And that has really shaped my experience in the classroom. But keeping on that same vein about recognizing folks who may not always be in the history books, right? The folks who in the history books are nameless and faceless. But I want to recognize the people in my family. I want to recognize my parents, my mom, Joanne, and her mom, my grandma Jewel, and even my grandma Jewel came up through the second Great Migration from Georgia, and thinking about her mother, my great grandma Lizzie, who was the first woman in our family on my matrilineal side that was born free. So really wanting to honor the legacy and the heritage. And, I don't know a lot of stories because I can only imagine how hard it is from what we read and we know now. They didn't share a lot of that with us because of the trauma, but I definitely want to honor them and their sacrifice. And then also my father, Rabbi Bishop J.R. Key, who was an activist here in Cleveland. He was a part of the Black nationalist movement, a part of a lot of the uprisings in Glenville and the Huff neighborhood in the 60s. So just recognizing that, you know, it's in our blood. It is in our DNA. So we have a duty to continue this work.
I agree. I have a ton of educators who have influenced me, a ton of family. Nina Turner, I was in a program called High Tech Academy, and it was a program where I would go to Cuyahoga Community College half of a day and to high school the rest of the day. And she would come and she would speak to us. And this was before she did anything with Senate, and just watching her and giving her story and just admiring where she came from. It was very motivational. Educators. I went to Harry E. Davis for middle school, and our principal, Miss Ray, had taken over the school and implemented a lot of Black history programming, a lot of arts. We did drumming, we did African dance, we did a lot of those things. And so just the educators, I have two people right now on the conference call who have motivated me. Mr. Irvin was actually one of my high school teachers, and Angela Flowers, I interned with her. And so she's always, and I work along the side with her right now. So she's always been an inspiration for me. People in my family. I have members of my family who are deceased now, but were part of the Black Panther Party. And so I cannot just, it's a magnitude of people who really had a huge influence on me. When it comes to art, Maya Angelou, I love her. I remember reading the book While Caged Birds Sing in high school, and it spoke so many volumes. So those are just a few to name that had impacted me. Way more, but just a few.
Thank you so much for sharing. Mr. Irvin is now able to join us. He was having a little bit of technical difficulty. So I do want to give him the opportunity also to share with us, looking at the current work that he does, who has been historically influenced his journey as well. So, Mr. Irvin.
Yes, my apologies. But I'm so glad I'm on the back end of this amazing event. Thank you so much for inviting me. So let me just dive into the question. For me, who was instrumental for me, I read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, probably when I was young in high school, and just reading his story about how he was, of course, as a slave, right? It was a crime for Black folks to read, right? So you were doing an act of, if you learned to read, it could have been at a cost of your life. So just his tremendous and extraordinary courage, right, to rise up beyond his circumstances from a slave to be an abolitionist, an orator, a speaker. He created media, newspapers, and he transcended his circumstances. But that autobiography just really tapped me into the power of our people and our culture, and that led me to reading about Marcus Garvey and the Back to Africa movement. And of course, our sisters, Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman. Can't forget about my sisters, right? Also, more recently, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Like she had a book called The Keys to the Colors, the ISIS Papers. So as when I became a Black educator, she really gave me more consciousness about like symbolism and how to look deeper beneath the surface, of what it means to be African American in this country. Also, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, he wrote The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. So from my ancestors, back in the 19th and the 20th century, of course, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who wrote The Miseducation of the Negro, changed my life, and it changed my perspective, and it really wanted me to be a Black male educator and really help shape young Black minds, right? To liberate young Black minds, young Black men and women. So those are some of the few of the Black historians, men and women, psychologists, historians that really inspire me to love our culture and to really teach our culture in an embodied way for so many years.
Thank you, Mr. Irvin.
No problem.
So, next question, and I just asked a couple of you to share, and I'm going to put Dr. Archie on the spot to go first, so get ready. But I am interested to hear, what are some strategies and techniques that schools can do to integrate Black history into the daily curriculum? If we could start with Dr. Archie.
That's the question.
All right. So yes, this is a good question. I think the first thing that schools can do is to begin to incorporate Black history into American history, right? We live in this American society where we're used to amendments. Look at our Constitution. Like, they wrote the Constitution, and then somebody said, oh, well, we forgot this, or we left this out, so they created an amendment, right? And so that's the American way, is to create amendments as opposed to changing the thing, right? And so I think when all of us agree to work towards changing the thing, right? So making sure that Black history is sailed throughout all of our history, making sure that it's in every chapter in any textbook. So anything that we're talking about, we're focusing or we're centering Black people in America. I think some strategies to do that would be to first around change the environment. So making sure that we have Black people on the walls. So making sure that during other months, so if we're celebrate Latinx heritage, you know, Black people can be Latinx too, right? Making sure that they're present there. When we celebrate Women's History Month, making sure that we're celebrating Black women too, right? So making sure that it's not this siloed approach as we are going to celebrate different groups of people, making sure that we know that Black people are Black and. So we're not just Black, we're Black and. And so making sure that is reflected in the curriculum and then also in the pedagogy. And so for teachers, I think the other thing is about doing, our own work. So I teach too, right? So I teach at a college level, but we have to do our own work before we put that lesson plan together, before we put that curriculum together. It's important that we are able to reach past the textbook, reach into some of these texts that Morris just talked about, looking at family histories, right? Encouraging young people to really begin to include those people that they know in their narrative. I'll say this and then I'll pass it off to someone else. I think it's really important that we think about our young people are not empty vessels. They don't just come into the classroom waiting for us to pour into them. We have to create space in the classroom for our young people to bring their lived experience. And so once we do that, and we know who's in our classrooms are more diverse now than they've ever been. But once we leave a space for young people to bring their full selves into that classroom, their full selves is going to include their racial identity. They're going to be able to talk about it as long as we continue to make the space safe and brave for them to do that.
Thank you. That's awesome. High five to that for sure. Would anyone else like to share?
I want to, I'm sorry, Morris, you go ahead. Just very quickly, no matter what subject you teach, whether you teach history, math, physical education, computer science, there are African-American people that have made an impact in the field under whatever you're teaching at that point. So there's no subject that we have not touched. There's nothing, whether you're talking about, welding. I'm sure that if you do some research, there is someone that you can say, this is what was done, or this was a business or whatever. So no matter what you're teaching, African Americans, it's not just about history, it's about all of the subjects that you can bring in our impact as African Americans in any subject at any time of the year.
Thank you, Ms. McLeod. Mr. Irvin? So I think he may be freezing at this time, so we can definitely.
Yeah, so definitely as a Black educator myself, I think you guys, am I back or no? Can you guys hear me? I'm froze. Can't hear it.
You're back.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Am I back?
Yes.
Am I a little muffled?
We can hear you.
So I was saying a holistic approach. I think definitely educate. Okay, yeah. So definitely educating, our children, Black and white. I think we need to start with, contemporary in our neighborhoods, like knowledge about what's going on in their communities. I think we need to start with our communities first, get our kids interested in, in the Black heroes that are local, Black and white, and folks of color. We need to incorporate multiple intelligences. We know how Black children learn, music, movement, body kinesthetic. We need to incorporate nature into these classrooms. So I think we need to change more our approach and really respect, our children's experiences that's in front of us, validate their experiences, learn about their wars first, and then we can kind of create opportunities and create that bridge to teach them about, our African heroes and sheroes of the past. But I love the holistic approach of really validating their experiences first, teaching them in a variety of different ways, and then incorporate some of our people in the lessons. So that's what I would share.
I think when we have other educators that are interested in teaching the history outside of those that share the history, I think that will be an awesome way to start to integrate, because children they want to soak in information. It's things that they don't know, and there's, I didn't know that. And so when we are able to present curriculum that's relevant to them, we're able to show them just different contributions. I think that they will, outside of the traditional, we're talking about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, just those traditional, the bigs of Black history. I think when we're able to break it down, like Morris just said, into everyday life, some of the your everyday heroes, but then also collectively as a community, everyone should embrace the history that is American history. And it's not, yes, it's part of Black history, but it's American history. And once people embrace that idea, then I think that it'll go over more with being able to integrate it daily, and then eventually changing the curriculum of what we purchase, so that it's not just one section that separates to say this is Black History Month, and it always starts with the African slave trade. There is much more to history than just slavery. So when we incorporate those daily things like Chanel was speaking about with the scientists, the lawyers, everything like that, I think it allows us to embrace the history as American history and global history, because it's not just Blacks in America, but all over that have made strides. Just like Dr. Arki said, there are so many different ways to teach the curriculum and to embed it. And I think that when everyone is on board with saying, okay, this is something that I'm going to embed daily, then it's not, so when Black History Month comes, it's not like I'm looking for a curriculum or something to teach. It's already integrated.
Everyone shared some powerful thoughts in regards to how, and strategies in regards to how we can integrate Black history into our daily experiences. So thank you very much. As we begin to wrap up our panel discussion, I want you to take a moment and think about what famous quote sticks out to you and why?
So I have W.E.B. Du Bois. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it says that children learn more from what you are than what you teach. And I believe that to be true. And so how you represent yourself, how you speak, your actions, the different type of work that you do in the community, that selfless acts, then they're able to be educated, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom by actually just watching us. And so that's a quote that I just kind of stand by.
Thank you.
Okay. One of my favorite quotes, which I use everywhere, is by Assata Shakur. And so Assata was one of the more famous female members of the Black Panther Party. She was accused with the group of Panthers of killing a police officer, and she eventually left the country. So that she was taken to jail and then she left the country. She was living in Cuba. But the quote is this: "It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains." And I really enjoy that quote because it's uniting us around this common thing and saying that this is the only thing that we have, is to be able to be on the line for our freedom. And it connects us, saying that I can't be free until all of my people are free. And we have nothing to lose but our chains. So we have to continue to do this work and be on the line for our people.
Mm-hmm. Snap.
Ooh, thank you.
You guys hear me? So I like when it says a people without knowledge of their past history is like a tree without roots. And I really think, right, we gotta know where we come from. Like Angela said, even, past, the Atlantic Ocean into Mother Africa. Once you start studying, you have a past, right? You can understand your place in the world and in the present and beyond. So studying your past history for all of us, knowing history is so key. You study patterns, you study trends, right? You understand what's going on and how it continues to change in current society. And also from Frederick Douglass, he says, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. As a mentor of lots of men from young to old, I still mentor men who are broken, right? I understand the consequences of men being boys, right? And not being developed spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, et cetera, et cetera. So to start early with our babies, to educate them the right way is really important. So those are my two.
Thank you.
And I have a quote. I know I mentioned Maya Angelou earlier. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that always stuck with me, especially working with youth. Most of the times when we think about the people who impacted us the most, is because of how they made us feel. And so I always take that into account when I'm working with others, is, things are not always going to be black and white. There's always going to be different approaches. People are impacted by how you treat them. And I try to share that with the students that I work with, be mindful of how you treat others, and to always give out what you would want to receive in return. And so that's one of my quotes that I always think about and stick to the back of my head.
Thank you.
My quote is also Dr. Maya Angelou. And this quote is usually used in a way that's like, kind of watch out for people. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But I would like us to rethink that, because I believe that a lot of us see a light in ourselves. We see our greatness. We get a glimpse of it all the time, and we don't want to believe it. We don't want to believe that we could shine that bright, we could be that great, we could do those things. But when you see who you are and you see that greatness and you feel it and know it in your spirit, you believe it the first time. So even though, we say those things, negatively, but when you look at yourself, you know that you have greatness in you. Believe it.
Wow, Ms. McLeod, way to spin that one. Because you're right, we typically do look at that more on that negative side, but we should look and see the brightness and the greatness within ourselves. So thank you for sharing that and concluding our panel discussion with that particular thought. I want to thank all of our panelists for participating this evening. Truly, truly blessed that you took time to be a part of this. I think this is important conversation and important work, and that we have to keep this on the forefront as we continue through schooling for our young folks, as well as the adults who are often our children's first teachers. So again, I thank you for participating in our panelists, in our panel discussion. At this time, we are going to transition to our paint and punch. I am going to turn it over to Ms. Flowers, who is going to share a little bit about our activity. So Mrs. Flowers.
All right, thank you. And thank you for those that are joining us for the Paint and Punch. You were given a link so that you can make sure that you are uploading your photos before and after, once you do your paint and punch. Our artist tonight was Miss Teresa Trailer, and she is going to walk us through how to make sure that our painting and our portrait is done correctly, and then we'll give you some time to go and be with your family. Thank you to the South Euclid-Lyndhurst District for providing all of this wonderful supplies that our families received tonight for their paint and punch, the snacks, the punch, just everything that they have in their kits. We had an overwhelmingly response of those that signed up for this paint and punch. So Ms. Teresa, can you go ahead and walk us through what our family should do?
Yes, absolutely. So everyone should have a canvas like this. It was pre-sketched out. And what I want you all to do, first step is to outline the words Celebrate Black History. You can either do it in pen or in marker. The reason I'm having you outline it is because of the background. So if you are using a darker background, it may wash out the pencil. And another reason I did it in pencil too is just in case you wanted to kind of swag it out a little bit, change it, maybe add some spikes or something to a B or anything like that. And also give you the option to decorate inside. So if you want to add like little dots inside of the E, you can do that. If you want to create any other design, you can do that. I'm giving you the artistic freedom. So I will allow you all to take a moment to trace and outline the words, and then I'll go into what we can do regarding the background. Now for the background, I'm going to do two different techniques. One is a blending technique. And so with the blending technique, I'll wait a little bit while you all are tracing, but I'm also going to be showing you all this too in the meantime. So if you want to look up as you're tracing, just to kind of get an idea of how to blend, because it's really simple. So you could take your paint and pick a color. Now, if it's a really dark color, I encourage you to, so if you want to do the African colors, and you want to use black to outline outside of your words, just so you won't lose the picture. So just take a small brush and just do a little outside, outlining outside like this. So that's only if you're using a really dark color and you don't want to lose your picture in the background. Now for the blending, you can take, and it doesn't matter if you color over the whole entire piece, because you can still go over the letters after you do the background. So for the blending technique, you take a color and you just go across like this. Now with art, there is no mess ups. And if you do mess up, it's easily, you can easily fix it. You can take a napkin and wipe it off. You can go over it, but it's really hard to make a mistake with art because art itself is imperfect. Okay, or it's perfectly imperfect. So you go like this, and you make sure you get on as much as you can. Go down a little bit. I don't know if you all can see me, okay? Make sure that on your, you are also getting the top part of your canvas and on the sides as well. So make sure you're getting the sides when you do this. Now this is the fun part. So after you've traced your letters and everything and you want to do a blend, you just go in and you get another color. So I'm going to use yellow, and I'm going to dab a lot of yellow just right here. Just dab it on there. And I'm using a different brush, and you just blend it in with the top part and just blend it down. And then just keep blending it down. And then add a little bit more yellow to the bottom, or whatever color you want to choose. Again, this is just a blending technique. So we could do it that way, all right? Now, if you want to do a block technique when you don't want to blend, you can literally separate it. So you don't have to blend. You can literally, let's see, I could do the block technique this way. So this is blending. So you see how it's transitioning to orange to yellow. If you want to do a block technique, or if you just want to do a solid color for the background, say you want your whole background to be red, you can do it that way. Or you can just block it out. So if you want red right here, blue right here, green right here, you don't blend, you could just take your paintbrush and then just go that way. So say for instance, let's try green. Now, if you are using a darker color, remember to outline it first, like I said earlier. So I can go back to the black color and we can do the black that way. So let me just get a different brush. So I'm just outlining this, but I want this whole section right here to be black. So I'm going to draw a line because I'm blocking it. I'm going to draw a line right here, and this is how I know that I want this whole section to be black. And so I won't go over this line with another color. So I won't be blending it. So I'm just going to do this like that, and then just trace around here and just fill all of this in black. Now, once you do that, though, these are just techniques. Of course, you have the artistic freedom to do it however you want. Once you go in and do it that way, you can take colors and let it dry. You can take colors and you can paint over the color. So you see how this is red right here? If I wanted to paint over it in green, it's still a little wet. So you could do that. So the colors you can paint over them. So it has to dry first if you do this. But you can paint inside of here with different colors. And you still can have the artistic freedom if you want to leave it this way. And you want to add some designs, just take a marker if you have one, or like a small paintbrush if you have it accessible, if you have access to it, like a small fine paintbrush, and just do detail. So if I want to do like, take a little paintbrush, I'm gonna use a black one, and I wanna do stripes here, I'm just gonna do that inside this T. So you can't really see it, so let me make sure, I wanna make sure that you all can see it. It's a little different doing it over Zoom. So you can do it that way. So a small paintbrush for any detail. Bigger paintbrush for blending. So I want to do like a box like this. You could go in and do it that way. You could add stripes. You can do circles. If I wanted to do like little horizontal stripes like that, you can do it that way. If you want to do like a design like this in the background, you could do that. If you want to do like some designs in your background that way and do like maybe little triangles, you could do it that way as well. So see how I did that? You can do designs like that in the background, and you can do it inside the lettering as well. So I'm giving you the artistic freedom, but those are just some suggestions. So again, try to make sure that you trace the letters first so that you won't lose them if you are using like darker colors.
So let's give our family some time to be able to go. I know they only have a short amount of time in order to make sure they upload. The link is live until 8 p.m. for those portraits. We heard some techniques from Teresa. Miss Bussy looks like oh, that is beautiful.
So one of our
beautiful
team members today went ahead and created her picture. So I thought I would just highlight and share some examples of what an art could look like.
I love it.
Very creative as well.
Yeah, you have the artistic freedom to make it look however you want, but those are just some techniques if you want it. If you were just at a loss or wanted to try something new. But that portrait looked amazing.
All right, family. So we want you to jump in, dive in, take as many pictures, boomerangs, and selfies as you can, and upload it to our live link. You can have those pictures emailed back to yourself, and we hope to see those portraits coming in soon.
And so, again, I just want to thank all of our families for joining us this evening for a Flash in Time, our cultural celebration. I want to thank the staff and students who joined us as well. And of course, Ms. Flowers, who partnered with us to bring this event alive for us. So again, thank you to our artists and our panel guests, Ms. Traylor as well, Dr. Arkey, Ms. McLeod, and Mr. Irvin for joining this evening. I hope that you enjoyed our Black History celebration. And let's get to painting. I look forward to seeing the photo booth and your creations. Have a good evening.